Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Void Bastards. Void Bastards is a roguelike first-person shooter where players must explore a nebula full of wrecked starships, scavenging for the parts necessary to build a working FTL drive to warp out of the godforsaken place, whilst also scavenging for the gear, food and fuel you'll need to actually survive your encounters with the mutated citizens you'll find on board, who are equally concerned by killing you and calling you names. I'm not going to lie, when I looked through the pile of recently released games to decide what to play for this video, it was Void Bastard's amazing art style that convinced me that this was the game to choose over all the others. The comic book inspired art style really speaks to me, with the use of bold colours and heavy stylization making Void Bastards an incredibly pretty game. Void Bastards even doubles down on the comic art motif, featuring a title screen that is a full comic cover and cutscenes that take place in moving comic panels. This is, without a doubt, one of the best looking games of the year, and if nothing else, it's a game I could just stare at for hours thanks to its sheer beauty. Luckily for the sake of this video, I did a lot more than stare at it. Void Bastards, like many roguelikes before it, is essentially a game of two halves. There are the shooting sections, where you fly to a target spaceship and board it in the hopes of finding some precious loot, and the crafting-focused survival-esque game, where you use all the stuff you scavenged to craft better weapons and gadgets to help you better survive the shooting. While it's a fairly compelling gameplay loop, one of these halves works better than the other. While the core shooting mechanics aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination, they do feel quite clumsy and imprecise. You'll generally be shooting at enemies from the move in a vain attempt at dodging their attacks, and it just doesn't feel all that accurate, which also means that it doesn't feel all that satisfying. Death will be a constant during your time with Void Bastards. I spent the first hour or so constantly running out of ammo, which is apparently the scarcest commodity in the galaxy, at least until I managed to craft the upgrades that let me scavenge ammo in levels. After that, it was usually the randomness of the game that would finish me off. Enemy placements or quirky spawns would see me walk into a self-destructing tourist just behind a door, or find a swarm of a dozen enemies that simply overwhelmed me. Everything is randomized in Void Bastards, from enemy spawns to map layouts. The game does give you some useful information before you decide whether to board a ship or not, telling you what enemies you'll find, the type of loot it contains, and any special modifiers, such as a lack of a minimap or extra tough security systems. All of this information let me know whether a ship was worth plundering, and all of the modifiers helped keep things from getting too repetitive, giving me different sets of enemies to fight or other considerations to watch out for, like navigating a ship full of life-sapping radiation or having to turn the power back on. While all of this staved off the feeling of deja vu that was present thanks to the repetitive environments, I was starting to feel like the game was repeating itself a bit too much during the latter stages of my last playthrough. The loot game in Void Bastards is a strong one, though there are some aspects that feel incredibly stingy, like the aforementioned example of having to craft an upgrade that let me find ammo for my weapons and levels. Once you're over the hump of having to craft items that are literally key to your survival, however, it's quite compelling to hunt for the parts you need to complete the next upgrade you've got your eye on. And after a ropey start, it gives you a nice sense of progression, as you can generally feel the upgrades making you slightly more powerful as you play on. Being able to keep all of those upgrades between character deaths helps a lot too. There's also the humour. Void Bastards is definitely not a game that takes itself seriously. At all. That sense of humour for me is a bit hit and miss. I love the cutscenes, complete with a great performance from Stanley Parable narrator Kevin Brighting as your disembodied AI companion. The rest of the game's comedy got a bit tiresome. It was quite novel at first, as the incredibly British mutants hurled local insults after me or complained about Barbara, but there's only so many times the game could call me a twat bag or a ballsack before it got old. It's a bit of a shame that Void Bastards doesn't marry its strong survival, crafting and exploration elements to better core gameplay. Again, it's not a bad game by any means. I actually quite enjoyed my time with the game and I'm looking to finish it, but it's also not without its frustrations. You'll find your runs ended more by quirks in the RNG than by anything you've specifically done wrong, which isn't great for a roguelike. Still, there's a good game here, and if you're looking for a quirky first-person shooter on Game Pass, I can recommend Void Bastards. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got tons of awesome videos coming every week, including review impressions, indie game of the week, debate-driven top 5 lists, video essays, and our weekly podcast where we discuss games, gaming culture, and the games industry. We also stream 3 times a week at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. But most importantly, have a fantastic day.